Cool. So this is the NWC Show, episode 66. And if you'd like to introduce yourself.
I am the personification of greatness, Roy Storey.
And thanks for coming back on the show. Second time, I was going to say second time lucky, but the first one was actually pretty good views. So a second time conversation, obviously. So since last time we spoke, you've been in the ring. I know you were excited about getting back in the ring, getting in front of people, showing that character, being the heel. What was it like being out there and getting that heel out there?
Yeah, it was really, really good. So the first show that I did was in Allen. I was in a tag team match with a wrestler called Damon Havoc. So he's already well known in Target, and he's already one of the top heels in Target. He's just recently won the High Octane Champion. So getting a reaction was kind of easy because once you're partnered with somebody who's already despised, you don't really need to do as much work as you want to. But to make sure that I was going to get a reaction, I made a T-shirt where the front said, "Who's the greatest?" And on the back I had a bunch of names like Muhammad Ali, Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, Tom Brady, a bunch of different names. And I had spray painted a red X over all the names. And in big bold letters underneath, you had Roy Storey. And it worked. Safe to say it worked. During the match, I went for trying to flesh out the character a bit. So I kept telling everybody how great I was. Didn't really do much. In all honesty, didn't really do much. Towards the end of the match, I ate a Stone Cold Stunner, blew out the ring. By the time I'd got up, my partner had got the pinfall victory. So I decided to do the classic Chris Jericho, hand behind head, look at me, look what I've done, even though I didn't even get the pinfall, and that seemed to have worked. The second match that I've had is a battle royal. So I decided to have a bit of fun with it yet again with the character. So one of the spots in the match, I take my time to come out of the ring. Everyone boozes because I'm wearing this T-shirt. And if you wear a T-shirt with your own face, well, you got to be able to pull it off. Kind of makes you look arrogant. One of the spots, there's a group currently dominating Target called the Spawn of Target. And it's basically full of some incredible people like Owen Michaels, Chris Kendall, and there's a couple more in there as well. Three of them happens to be in the ring during the Battle Royal. So I tried to get them to help me win the Battle Royal, basically. I turn around, the big lad in the group clotheslines my head off, I roll outside. Everybody's annoyed because I went under the rope and not over it. And basically, there was a few situations in the match where I'd go back in the ring, I'd get took out, but I'd roll out the ring. So people were hating it because I'd talked so much crap on my entrance that all people wanted to see was me get eliminated. Eventually, I got in the ring, attack somebody, gloat about how great I am, say I'm going to chuck somebody out. He attacks me, chucks me out. Big pop. So I'd done my job. It was a loud reaction when I got eliminated, so I couldn't have asked for any more. And then decided to do the classic, try to go in the ring. So I tried to get in the ring, the referee pulls his back, the fans love it even more. And then I ended up walking off with me head and shame with people telling me that I'm not great and I suck basically. So it worked out.
You done the job, man. That's what you had to do, just get that stuff done. What a lot of people might not realise is you're still very new to being in the ring. This is your whole kind of persona and stuff came on social media when you entered the Target. Was it World Championship? What was it again?
Yeah, it was World Championship tournament is what it was, yeah.
That's what it is. I'm terrible with names. Everybody knows that. I'm sure you even know that. But it was cool seeing how your character was flushed out during that lockdown period. You're still new in the ring. Getting a tag team, getting a battle royale stuff. That's base level of any wrestler's career. You always get through in a battle royale at some point, or a few of them. Then it's tag team wrestling. Especially if you're a heel, tag team always works easy because you get a little bit of time to annoy the crowd when you're standing at the side. Same as if you're a face, you get a bit of time to make them care about you when you're kidding on that you're hurt outside or if you're actually hurt. But it's cool to see how far you've came in such a short period of time. I think it's going to be fun to see where you're in the next 4 or 5 years. Hopefully we see you NXT or some shit like that, you'll be up there still doing my podcast. I'll get you back on then. But
yeah, if that does happen, I'll definitely be back on.
No, man, definitely. I think it's cool. Like, people don't really see the building blocks of a wrestler. Like, they normally just get, for everybody's brain, it's always like It's like Stone Cold Steve Austin was here as a ringmaster, and then he was like all the way up here. But they forget all the start period. Your journey's a bit weird because you normally get the in-ring stuff, then you get the character. You got the character, then the in-ring stuff. Which, what do you think's better? For me, I obviously done in-ring then character. What would you have preferred that way, or do you think character first then in-ring?
So I think it does kind of depend on the person, but one of the reasons why I decided to develop the character stuff kind of first was I was listening to a podcast that Joe Hendry did, and his bit of advice was basically like, figured out a character early on, because then when you eventually do need to use one, you can kind of know what you're going to do, and it will be easier for you to get a reaction from people because you've already got, a character sorted out. You know what you're going to do in terms of if you're the face and in terms of if you're the heel. So it should be easier for you to get a reaction. Having said that, there does come a little issue if you do focus on the character too much, that you maybe not focusing on the ring stuff enough. So I usually, first 2 matches basically to try and get the character over, and now I'm going to start and focus on keeping the character there, but focus a bit more on the in-ring stuff for the next matches and that. So, but I think it depends on the person. Some people maybe lack the confidence for the character or aren't quite like able to put themselves out there, whereas somebody like me that's done drama and other stuff in the past and find a character part kind of like, don't want to say easy, but more comfortable doing the character part.
Definitely, man. I just think it's a weird journey as well, because you turn up to a wrestling school, you always do like your training first, then you do like wrestling, and then the character's always just kind of, first couple of matches you've not really got a character, but it's the other way around for you. You've got like that character which people are really buying into, especially in social media, which is cool to see. And then when you get at the shows, you're saying you're getting reactions and things like that. I think it's cool to see that build. Then obviously you can add the in-ring, but like you said, it is for the person, isn't it? Wrestling's, it's like a circus. Everybody's different. I was always a heel. I think my first year I was a good guy, but I hated it because I hate being a good guy, because I don't know, we turn up in a bad mood or you're having a bad day, it's cool to go take it out on people instead. If you're turning up and having to be nice, take pictures with your thumbs and stuff, you're like, nah, that's all right. I'm just going to go be this bad guy and call people bad names and stuff, because that's more fun. But I get what you mean. I think for a heel, breaking it down both ways, for a heel, I think it's better to learn your character first, because you don't really need to be in the ring to be hated. You can just be just the way you look. But
do a lot of stalling. You don't need to, rush in and stuff. Whereas if you're a face, you kind of need to, get over there, do some moves, maybe be a bit flashy as well with your in-ring stuff. So,
I think that's why I always never liked being a face, because the guy always had to like put on like good moves, do like all these fancy moves, and I was like, just give me a wee low blow chair shot, let me go up the road, I'm all right. I don't need any fancy stuff. But there's a few people that listen to this that are still like young, they're like 18, 19, getting into wrestling, and they're trying to do wrestling, trying to do YouTube, they're trying to do job, girlfriend. You know what it's like when you're 18, try to do everything. What would be your advice for them? This is going to turn into a motivational talk. I don't mean that to happen, but what would be your advice being in that kind of early stage?
My advice would be with the early stage is to keep going to wrestling school if you're going. If you're looking for a wrestling school, see if there's one locally. If not, then see if there's one where you can travel to. But I know that the first few sessions can be a bit repetitive. And some people enjoy it, like myself. I enjoy doing the basics and I enjoy all that. But some people can kind of get a little bit fed up about doing stuff over and over. But repetition is key. Same with everything. The only way you're going to get better at something is if you keep on doing it. And what I would say is, I know it can be hard to juggle things. But at the end of the day, if you really want something, you will find a way to do it. So don't get me wrong, things come at a bit of a sacrifice. Like, you might have to sacrifice some of your friendships, you might have to sacrifice relationships and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if you do end up doing something that you wanted to do, and then you achieve doing that, then there's no better feeling really. So, like, for example, from my experiences, I always wanted to be a personal trainer as a kid and always wanted to be a professional wrestler. I'm 25. I've had a couple of matches at Target now, and I've also been a personal trainer. So I've already achieved both of them. Yeah, it's affected stuff personally in my life and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't change anything that I've done to get to them places. So just keep working hard. Some days will be harder than others, but just push through. There's plenty of people now, especially that will help you, give you advice. There's loads of people in the wrestling community which are really, really good. You can find them on Twitter. And if you've got any questions or anything like that, just fire away. I'm sure somebody will help.
Man, definitely. I think that's what I say as well. Just like, for me, everything I've ever done in my life, like from personal training, wrestling, my own business, whatever, I'm 100% in on my goals. Like, my partner knows, like, if I'm in, like, so it's everything comes in cycles. I'm not a very busy period because the economy isn't very great, so it's pretty slow. But the minute I get into a busy period, it's 20 hours a day. There's no off time. She knows when to when to be there, when to know. And I always say, you'll find the relationship that works for your goals. Maybe the person at your way that time, you might think they're the person you're going to be with for the rest of your life. But if they don't understand your goals, then they're not that person. You just kind of need to find somebody that understands. Like, for me, I work too much. I go to the gym, like, I'm doing these crazy challenges at the minute. And if you, like, 48 hours walking 100 miles, doesn't sound a lot, but when your feet start falling apart, skin peels off and stuff, and you're passing out because you're, like, ready to you're dehydrated, and your partner's there to help you, pick you up, get you some water, get you back out in the roads, supporting you. That's somebody that I've got with me. A lot of people don't have that. So it's kind of, like, I always just say life's like a big journey. You just need to experience it. And I always say, the guy who I'm talking about knows who we're talking about. He's like 18. He's honestly one of the best guys to speak to in the wrestling community, but he just takes everything on too much at the same time. And I keep saying to him, whatever you want to do is what comes first, and then everything just falls in line after that. So when I wanted to be a wrestler, I was doing it every day. It's like training every day, running, gym, watching it. I didn't. I work too much, but so I don't know if I'm being like telling them the wrong information, but it seems like you just said the same thing. So maybe we're both wrong. We shouldn't be working as much as what we do, but who knows? Man, so where do you see yourself going next couple of years? Do you want to start travelling abroad more, or?
At the minute, I'd probably just try and work my way up, target a bit more. I would like to go to other shows and stuff in the future, but that's probably a bit more down the line. Next couple of years, just want to try and establish myself as a star on Target and just get myself to a point where, you know, I can work a good few matches and hopefully put on a show and be able to sell tickets.
The good thing for you is coming in at this time, there's so many places to go. Like, when I was wrestling, there was 2, maybe 3 promotions in the whole of the UK that would take, like, people on to wrestle, and it's obviously they're going to take the people who get names, and everybody else underneath that was just no use. So I had to go with my friends to, like, Germany and stuff like that to go wrestle to make some money. But apart from that, it's good for you guys. There's so many. Like, in Scotland, there's 50, 60 promotions. In England, it's obviously hundreds of promotions everywhere, which is fun. You just need to, like you said, you want to work in Target, build your name up there, and then you've just got anywhere to go. Just pick them and just go and be the best heel ever. And so, what was the part when you were younger? You said you wanted to be a personal trainer and a wrestler. First of all, I've done personal training as well. The industry is literally full of people that are terrible at their job, like really, really, really bad at personal training. And they might look good. There's me going to get pissed off for the personal trainers now. 15 minutes into a podcast and I've already made people get heat against me. But it's a terrible industry to get into, especially when you go to college, because anybody can go to college to do it. So when I went to college, I went to college with a guy who was doing steroids. Clearly was doing steroids, but he said he didn't do them, but he was clearly doing them. He was like 5'4", 250 pounds and jacked. And I was like, your body makeup does not even make sense to like how small you are and how big you are. But anyway, you get people that just go just because they think it's going to be easy money. They don't really pay attention in it. I love fitness stuff. Like you've probably seen my challenge stuff. It's literally all I spend my time planning these out, doing fitness, go to the gym. I love it more than anything. But I would never go back to doing personal training just because of how horrible the industry is and how like bitchy it is. I don't know if this is making sense. Just like how bitchy.
It makes sense to me. The gym I worked at, luckily I got on with everybody that worked there, so I didn't really have an issue with people that had worked within in that particular gym. Mm-hmm. But like one of the things that I found, which was really bad about the personal training industry, is especially with somebody like me, I'm only like 5'6", 5'7". And at the time when I was doing personal training, I was 10.5 stone, which isn't particularly, big or anything like that. I could lift quite a bit, but the problem was clients will judge you mainly not on your knowledge, but based on how you look.
Yeah.
Luckily, like I decided to just go into weight loss because that was basically the best way for me to get clients, because they weren't looking at me like, oh, he's too thin to be a personal trainer. They were looking at me like, because I put a photo of when I was a bit overweight to what I was then, they were looking at me like, oh, he knows how to lose weight, and that's how I got clients. You'll get people that are looking at you and like you don't know how to be PT, why are you PT, you're too small. So that was one thing that kind of used to bug me a little bit about the industry, not necessarily personal trainers like in it and stuff like that, but for some reason there seems to be like a stereotype that the bigger you are, it means that you know more, when in reality that doesn't prove your knowledge. So,
and I totally agree with you. I was saying like examples that when I was at college, I had teachers that were a wee bit more like, if you didn't want to do like boxercise and stuff like that, because I don't like that dancey workout stuff. Like if I'm going to the gym, I'm going to the point that I'm ready to be sick. Like I want to feel a workout to like work certain muscle areas. Like if I'm doing squats, I'm trying to just exhaust that area as much as I can to help it grow. Obviously, there's points when you can do different stuff, but I like to do weird shit, like row 40 miles, where your hands are falling apart, blood and everything. It was at a gym that I was doing it, and a personal trainer was telling me that I was rowing like the wrong way. So I'm like, I'm 6.5 hours into this. What are you talking about the wrong way? There's no way when you're 6.5 hours into a 40-mile row are you try to row with like the perfect posture and stuff. But that's just kind of like you said, if you're too small or whatever, people look at you and they go like, oh, you're not a personal trainer. But it's so silly because the guy or the woman who's the smallest person there might be the strongest person there. You never know, especially if you look at things like Muay Thai, MMA. It's normally the smaller people that are better at them. But that's just my gripe about personal training. So if everybody wants to know why I hate that industry, it's because it's just for the people. And the weight loss industry is even worse because when you do personal training, you feel like you need to get pushed into that. You're not a nutritionist, but you feel like you need to kind of, none of this stuff we give you is advice, but like, what's the point in giving them advice then? Just take them
people used to always ask me for nutrition advice and stuff. And the only thing I used to say that I would never write diet plans, never, because first of all, like one diet plan that you write for somebody won't necessarily work for another person. There's so much science involved that it's pretty much impossible to write diet plans for people and get it 100% right. What I would just tell is the key to weight loss is simple, like burn more calories than you put in. Simple as, like you can eat, obviously don't eat chocolate and eat crap all the time, but you can still keep little bits of stuff that you like and just find a way like to burn more calories than what you're eating basically. Or just cut calories here and there. It's as simple as that. But people for some reason decide to make a big old like, oh, it's like you need to do this, you need to do that. When in reality it's as simple as just eating less and working out more.
Definitely, man. I just think it's one of those industries. Like I love the fitness industry, everything about it, and then I just totally fell out of love with it because of the idea of like you said, like people coming up and asking you about diet plans. It's like, well, you kind of know, like, you shouldn't eat chocolate every day, but you can eat an apple. But the best thing is, I know you'll appreciate this as well, is I was standing outside my kid's school the other day. We're just standing waiting to pick them up, and there's these two huge ladies standing next to me, and they're like, you shouldn't eat apples all the time because it's got too much sugar in it. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's not the same idea. It's the chemicals that go into processing natural sugars that cause, you already know all this kind of stuff, but it's just like, you can't just, that's like saying, but you can't eat bananas every day. No, you shouldn't probably eat 20 bags of bananas every day, but a couple, 1, 2, it's not going to do you any harm. Maybe it might do something good for you, a wee bit of vitamin, but it really bugs the life out of me. And I feel just now I work in marketing and advertising. This is coming back to wrestling, by the way. I've got a point to this story. I work in marketing and advertising, and everybody feels that they're a marketing advertiser at the minute, which is so stupid. Like, you're not. You can't like, no. Advertising's like been here for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it takes years of learning this craft. You can go to uni for 5 years, get an ad degree, come out, and you'll just get laughed out of the industry because it doesn't mean anything. It's an insanely hard industry to learn. It took me years to just perfect ads for clients at the minute, which is doing very well. And you'll get somebody that's got like a wax melt business that got like 100 likes in a post, and they'll be like, I'm going to set up an ads agency. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. But back to the wrestling side, do you feel too many people have saw wrestling on TV or been like, oh, you know what, I think I could do that, or an easy way to make money, then they turn up to wrestling, do a couple of classes, and then they might try and get a match or something on a lower end show, and it just dilutes the pool for when people try, like, they might go see a wrestling, somebody who's had 2 classes and they're not very good, and it just puts a bad taste in their mouth. Coming from, like, talking about the personal training industry into the advertising stuff, I feel like there's so many promotions, right? No, every promotion's got pros and cons. Like, anything's got a good side and a bad side. But I feel some promotions might be taking advantage of people just getting into wrestling, getting them in the ring to put on a match to fill a card. Do you feel the same, or am I just talking at my arse here? Don't bury yourself, obviously. It was my fault for getting this out of you, if anybody wants to.
So, like, I can't really comment too much on it because I've not really seen that happen to any of the events I've been to. And it doesn't happen at Target either. Like, you've got to train, and they only put you on a show when you are show ready. But I do feel like it probably does happen in some wrestling schools or wrestling places. I mean, it's bound to be honest, because there's always, in any industry, there's always people that, try and take shortcuts or will try to do anything to benefit themselves rather than, what they should actually do. So, yeah, that's all I can say about that one.
No, definitely, man. I just mean, like, no, like Target or anything like that. I'm not taking shots at Target. Their skill is good, but, like, it's a reputable skill, so it's a skill that you can go to. You'll learn the craft of wrestling, and then when you're ready for a show, they'll put you out there, and they're going to put you out with somebody that's going to take care of you, and no hurt you or put you in a situation that you're not going to know what's going to happen. They'll take care of you 100%. I just mean, like, I feel everybody at the minute has got, like, wrestling skills just setting up. Like, I've got, like, 3 round about me in the city centre of Glasgow, no including, like, ICW's one or Rev Pro Wrestling, stuff like that. And it's like, never heard of these people ever in my life. Like, and it's, you see the people going there, they don't really look like they're in shape and stuff like that. But then, like, 2 weeks later, they're on a show, and I'm like, is that really safe enough to be going in? It's like if we'd done personal training. First week they went, cool, this is how you do a squat. Now go teach a client how to do a squat. Like, that would be insanely terrible today. But I'm like, I don't know. I'm just bitching a wee bit because I'm seeing a lot of people setting up these wee shows and maybe using people that aren't that good, but they're still charging like £40-50 tickets, and it's bugging me now. Now, if anybody wants to blame anybody, it's me, because I'm not going to wrestle again. You can hate me all you want. But I think it's just like any industry, when there's like a little bit of a boom period, which I feel wrestling's coming back to, we are going to get a lot of people coming in to schools. Again, this isn't a dig at like Target or anybody like that. The guys have really good schools that are there for, I've been there for years, and kind of show you how to get in the ring and learn the script. But when people aren't learning it to the best of their ability, going in there and hurting themselves. The only reason I'm saying that is I've seen too many people from when I was in there that when they really committed to it, going half-arsing it, and then hurting somebody to win the ring way, it ends their career. There was a guy I knew who was insanely good, and he got his ligaments tore right off his knee, and he wasn't able to walk. He never went back to wrestling. Like, his knee still hurts to this day, and he hates the guy who done it. But I'm just like, I don't want to see smaller shows. If anybody's listening to this and they go to like like Target and stuff, those places are like well known. But like now, like they're in the city centre and you see like those fake wrestling shows up. It might not be the best wrestling you see, and it might just be people actually hitting each other, which is no the same as going and actually seeing people who are good at wrestling. Now, back to something more positive, because I know I've just buried myself a wee bit better, but I will. I'm just going to change the name of this podcast to the burying. The last one I done as well. People got poor angry at me, but aye. So coming up, and obviously we're coming out of lockdown and stuff like that. We might be going back into lockdown. Who knows what's happening in the UK world, whatever COVID's left this way. Where do you think wrestling's going to get back to, in the UK especially? Obviously there's been issues that we don't need to talk about, but do you think it's going to get back to that wee boom period it was when it was like 2016, 17? Or do you think we're a wee bit, like maybe 8-10 years off of that, getting back to that?
I don't think we'll be that far off it. Obviously, it's a bit hard to predict with COVID and stuff, but I reckon maybe give it a couple of years, and if things stay similar to what they are and improve, then I reckon that you'll see that that boom period happen. Like the last couple of shows that we've had specifically, for example, have been really, really good in terms of attendance and stuff. So from that point of view, it seems like it could possibly be maybe going on the rise a little bit, but like you say, with the whole COVID stuff, I think there's still people out there that are a bit wary about going to events and going around people. So it might take a little while yet before everybody else gets to a point where they're actually going to where they were a couple of years ago.
Definitely, man. Like, I've had a ton of people in this podcast now. This is the 66 one that we've got here, and I've had people for like, we've had Copenhagen Wrestling, we've had like Sherry Natris on, we've had people from America, Scotland, England, Wales, all over the place, and wrestling seems to be potting off more locally. Obviously, COVID has kind of put a stop to that now, but it does feel like wrestling was really starting to get back again. Given the bigger side of the companies, WWE, AEW, I know you've probably seen it on Twitter. How do you feel about the war that these two guys are having with each other? Because if you say something bad about AEW, you're going to have like 100 people shouting at you. If you say something bad about WWE, you're going to have 100 people shouting at you. What do you make of this? Just insanity, or are you enjoying it?
So I actually enjoy my shows. I do kind of think it's a bit ludicrous that it's being called a war. I kind of agree with Eric Bischoff's comments about like if it was a war, we'd be going head to head, same day, same hour, going right against each other. To me, at the minute, it just seems more like WWE are doing what they're doing, aimed at a family-friendly audience, whereas AEW are aimed to not family-friendly, and they're just in two different markets. So to me, I view them as two different companies. I don't see them. I know they take jobs, especially AEW. But the way I view it is that's just like a new up-and-coming company taking jobs at the one that's already established. I don't agree with that. I feel like AEW should just focus on themselves and keep doing what they have been doing, because eventually, if they keep building and building upon what they've already got, then there's no reason why they can't get to a position where they're the number one company in wrestling, especially with the roster that they've got. They've got unbelievable talent. But at the same time, if they keep focusing on what WWE is doing rather than focusing on what themselves, they might end up in a situation with WCW back in the late 90s. WCW were above WWE for like 86 weeks or 83 weeks. And then once they started focusing more on the fact that they were beating WWE, they started putting rubbish out, and it just went downhill from there.
Well, I remember I was a young kid when the last Monday Night Wars came out. I think when it started in '97, I was like 5, 6, 5. I think I would have been, and it was like seeing that war, and then seeing the 2010 9-ish period when Impact Wrestling started to try and take on WWE. WWE won that again. Obviously, they bet WCW. It's like, can we not just have wrestling? Just enjoy it. Because I've got a video coming out later, pros and cons of AEW. I'm expecting to lose subs on it, so I'm not worried about it. I'm like, they've got, every company has pros and cons. One thing for me with AEW, as I said last time, it feels that they are looking for like just the cheap rating spike. Now, like, they'll get CM Punk. They're like, oh, we need to get him, and it gets that spike up, and then it's like, oh, what do we do with him now that I've got him? It's something that I say in my video coming up later. But WWE, like you said, they're for everybody. They're for the 3-year-old kid all the way up to the 96-year-old granny. Do you know what I mean? They need everybody. And then AEW is that niche wrestling fan market, because they bring in like Japanese wrestlers. If you're not watching wrestling in depth, you don't know who any of these Japanese people are, and you probably have never heard of them. So when people are going, "This is a legend," you're like, "Who's this? Never heard of him."
Yeah. I've got a controversial opinion about something that AEW has done that I think WWE probably would have managed better, although it would never happen based on the person it involves. But I'm going to go out and say it. I reckon WWE uses CM Punk better than AEW have been. But
for me, that's not controversial. I just think that's just fact. Like,
I understand that it kind of is to do with CM Punk wanting to enjoy being back in wrestling and stuff like that. But at the same time, like, there's only so many times that you can see somebody like CM Punk, especially with the way he has been in the past with his character and stuff. And you can see him walking around smiling, and just, it kind of feels like, yeah, he's happy to be there, but what now? He needs to be getting a bit more serious for me. Otherwise, it just
something that I've been saying as well is it feels just like Sting when they got Sting in, and then they kind of just went, right, go talk for like 8 weeks, then they found him something to do. That's what I'm saying. Like, it just feels like they get these people in, and then they'll get them to go out and talk. Like you say, I don't want to see CM Punk smiling and like chatting to people. Like, I want to see him in the ring doing what he does best. I don't want to see him like being all happy and stuff. And notoriously, everybody knows I don't like Daniel Bryan that much. He's cool in the ring. I think he seems like a dick outside the ring. Everybody hates me on it. The last video I done for that, I lost like 10 subs. Like, the video went live an hour later. I was, oh fuck. I was like 2 away from 200 and I lost 10, so I was raging. But anyway, a good thing about wrestling is you can say that you love it. I can say that I hate it. Opinions is what makes wrestling great again, because it causes emotion. Like me saying Daniel Bryan shit causes emotion in somebody else. That's cool. That's what makes wrestling, makes you want to go watch Daniel Bryan, and that creates good emotion. I've done my job being the guy that doesn't like something, who used to do wrestling, and that means that you get to go and enjoy it. I don't get what the problem is, but like it says, it does just feel like they get CM Punk to be happy and smiley. I don't know if it's him being like, I would like to smile. I feel that somebody would tell his Twitter, so he would stop being a dick on Twitter, and then, because it doesn't make sense, like, being a dick on Twitter but smiling on the TV. It's like, pick what you're doing.
Yeah, I'd love to see him not necessarily turn heel, but be a bit more of a dickhead like what he was. Like, because at the end of the day, one of the things that worked really well for him in WWE, even as a face, was him being like a smart ass dickhead, basically. Like, the snide comments to Laurinaitis, anybody he was against, he would absolutely rip. I know that he did it with Taz, that was really, really good, but then it kind of feels like he's not really in a feud at the minute as well, so why should you really be interested in him? Obviously, I get the fact that he's been gone and, but to me, that novelty's already worn off. It's like I'm going to Nah, it's not fair just for us to bash AEW. I'm going to bash WWE a bit as well. Edge, when he first returned, loved it. He had the feud with Randy Orton, enjoyed that. He came back. He's had this feud with Seth Rollins, which has been really, really good. But one thing that kind of annoys me is, because I've done it twice now, to write him off TV. And I understand he's not full-time and stuff. But for me, if you keep going back to writing him off because he's had a little neck injury, how are we then meant to believe that he can put his body through all the stuff he did at Hell in a Cell, for example, or like another ridiculous match without injuring his neck and without disappearing again?
Man, I think, like I said, both companies have pros and cons. Like, it's you say one thing bad about the other, somebody's going to say, but this person does this, and it's like, can we not just enjoy it? Like, I like bitching about wrestling because that's the best thing about wrestling. Like, I know you're a football fan, you're going to bitch about football. You love it, you watch it probably every weekend, but you'll still bitch about it. It's no like doesn't mean you hate it. You're never going to go see that team again, but you're going to bitch about them, which for some reason has just failed to be recognised in the wrestling world. Which I love looking at it on Twitter, people arguing with each other and like calling each other names and stuff just over like petty things, like you said you didn't like this, or I've had it for no sharing people's podcasts. Like, I've been at work, you didn't share my podcast, you're a dick. What the fuck you doing? I'm busy, I'm making money, what am I doing?
It's kind of weird, Preston. It's kind of like what you see when people argue over politics. Like, instead of having a debate and like instead of like listening to each other's points and then maybe agreeing or just going, oh, I don't agree with you. Like you say, you get all the name calling and oh, you're wrong and stuff like this. Whereas in reality, nobody's wrong. Like you say, it's all opinion based. So, like, for example, one of the beauties of wrestling is, unlike the likes of football and boxing, the greatest of all time in wrestling, like, depends on the person who you're asking. Whereas with football, you'll get people, for example, at the minute, will say probably it's the same names. It's either Maradona and Messi or Ronaldo. Same with boxing, it's either a Tyson or an Ali. But with wrestling, you get a range of different answers depending on the person. So one person might say Bret Hart, another person might say his brother Owen. You've got Shawn Michaels, Rock, Stone Cold, Hogan, Cena people even say, so you get a range of different people. Whereas with other things you don't. So that's one of the beauties of wrestling, is the fact that you can't really say who's the best at it, and there's loads of different things that come into it, which makes it miles better than other things. But like you said, one of the downsides is obviously when fans disagree, they seem to get a bit petty, really.
Man, I get called bald all the time. Let's say when, like, if I say, like, for instance, when I say I don't like Daniel Bryan, but Bryan Danielson, whatever you want to call him, because he seems like a dick. And I literally had points of why he seems like a dick. Like, it would make sense. And then I was like, his in-ring work's good. I'm not denying his in-ring work's good. I don't think he's good telling a story emotionally, like when he's on the mic and stuff like that. He's not the best. He even admits it himself, he's not the best. But then people still moan at you. Like, I'd like, oh, you're bald. I know I'm bald. I shave my head. That's like saying I've got legs. Well, thanks. I know that. I was walking the day, but it's so funny. But the best thing about wrestling is you do get that. People love it so much that they get defensive about it. And there's no other sport in the world like it. Like football, you're going to watch your team. You might change up and watch 2 or 3 teams, whatever. But in wrestling, you go through. You might want to watch Rob Van Dam. You might want to go watch Bret Hart, Hogan, Big Show, I don't know, Kenny Omega. You've got all these people that you might want to go watch, and they all wrestle all different. It's like watching. I don't watch football, so I don't know if they play all differently. But if you went and watched the football game and then you went and watched another one, be like 2 different teams, you get the similarities. But in wrestling, you don't get. Literally, it'll be like a punch is similar for here and there, but everything's so different. Bad guys, good guys, chairs, no chairs. And like you said, it's subjective. Everybody always, like politics, is subjective. I could believe in one thing, you can believe in another. Doesn't mean we can't talk to each other. But people, especially in 2021, take it as like, this is my team. If you don't believe in my team, I'm not talking to you ever again. Plus, if you look at us, I'm in Scotland, you're in England. Traditionally, we wouldn't be talking to each other, but there's nothing wrong with 2 different people, 2 different countries, 2 different beliefs talking to each other, which boggles my mind why people get so hostile, because I'm like, I've got so much to do. Like, if I sit down for too long, I'll fall asleep. And people are just arguing about, like, no, Kenny Omega's better than Roman Reigns. I'm like, what are you talking about? But it's just one of those things that we need to deal with. And I'm sure you'll be looking forward to it when you're big enough. People will be arguing, no, he's the greatest ever.
I would probably, if I was in Palace, have to agree with them. When you've got the nickname of personification of greatness, it's kind of hard for me not to argue that, you know, I'm better than everybody else. But in reality, you know, I'm leaps and bounds away from the likes of Roman Reigns and stuff like that. So
it wouldn't be a good character if you were like, no, I'm not that good. I'm okay. I'm not the best. But I mean, where do you think wrestling's going to go? Do you think we're going to hit that boom period, or do you think we are still a wee bit away? I think we're there, but Twitter needs to calm down, because if somebody that's just getting into wrestling goes onto Twitter, you'd be like, fuck, I'm not going to watch this shit.
Yeah, I think we're getting there. I mean, it's in a better place than what it has been in a while, but I would like to see AEW get to a point where they go head to head. I think that's the moment that we kind of need for it to go back right into a good period. Having said that, though, I do kind of like the fact that they're on different nights, because it's a lot easier to actually watch all of it rather than, you know, having to pick a side between the two. But I think that would need to happen for it to go into like a proper rise. But other than it, it's good where it's at. And hopefully there's just going to be a lot more people that are going to get back into it. Or hopefully new people starting to watch it and then eventually stay with it.
Man, I think the problem is as well, like you say, it's gone head to head, especially in this world that we're in, with like YouTube and stuff like that. It's nobody's watching anything live anymore, really. Like, I'll just watch stuff when I get up in the morning at like 3, 4, but I'm not staying up to watch it live. Yesterday I watched Crown Jewel and done a live stream, but if it was a normal pay-per-view, normal time, I'll just get up in the morning and watch it. There's no way I'm staying up till like 1, 2 in the morning to watch it, which I always think is so weird when Americans and Twitter especially are moaning about ratings, and you're like, but AEW might be doing better in the UK, but terrible in France. You can't just like take America as the be-all and end-all for the ratings, because that's not the only place that they're showing.
Yeah.
But no, man, I get what you mean with opinion-wise. Everybody's obviously got their own opinions, especially coming in. We're in 2021, coming to 2022. There's a lot of people with a lot of, like, but especially we're here in the UK. Was it last week? The people were doing the sitting in front of the cars and not letting people like move because I didn't even know what that was about. I wasn't even paying attention. I was just like, that's all right. Then here in Glasgow, we've got the Ep.66 thing coming, which is the most pain in the arse thing ever, because it shuts off. I stay in the city centre, and all my streets round about me are all closed off at a certain time. So I can't drive anywhere. I need to walk everywhere, especially if I'm going like 6 miles. My car needs to be parked like 2 miles away from my house. I need to walk to it. It's a pain in the arse, but we'll get there. Hopefully it does something. Probably won't, but hopefully it does something good. But actually, I mean, like I was saying there, if people don't know the history between Scotland and England, it's a long history of disliking each other. But we can talk to each other. There's still some people today that don't like England, some people in England that don't like Scotland. But it's fine to speak to each other. And that's what I just want to get across in this is everybody can have their opinion, but you can all just still talk. Instead of arguing and shouting, we can, like I know you were seeing Rangers the other day. When I grew up, we wouldn't be allowed to speak to each other. That's how bad it was in Glasgow. It's more serious than where you're like, or where are you from and what team do you support? It's the first 2 questions you got asked anywhere you went in Glasgow, especially after a certain age range, you'll get asked that still. But nobody really cares anymore. We've got over that period in time. But it feels like the rest of the world has went back to that period of time, and Scotland's just gave up on it. Fuck it, we've had that too long. What do you think they could do to better that? Do you think people just need to learn that everybody gets their own opinions and you can't shout at them? Or do you think there's something that needs to be done?
I would like to see something done, but at the same time, like, I don't exactly know what you would do. So, like, somebody like me, for example, I listen to people's opinions, even ones that I don't agree with, and I don't tell people that their opinion is wrong and stuff, because at the end of the day, like, what's the point? People have different views. We're all different. That's the beauty of humanity. Everybody's different. I'm not entirely sure what you could do, because also at the same time, there's so many people set in their way that it would probably be near enough impossible to get them to change their mind. So I think you've just got to kind of just let it roll and just continue with everything, really. There's no point you trying to, I don't want to use the term enlighten, but there's no point you trying to get somebody to see a different point of view if they're not going to accept it because you're already set in the ways, because you're just wasting your time. And for example, there's a woman who, when I used to work at the previous job, I'd served, and for whatever reason, we didn't have a jacket in stock, and she wasn't happy. She kicked off in the shop. She even shouted in my face and told us, because we didn't have a jacket in stock, that she was wanting to kill us all. So I'm stood there like, oh, what do I do? Well, in my new job, she's came in a few times. I've tried to speak to her, and oh, how's your day? As you do when you're scanning stuff through the tills and that. And she just does not speak to me. So because of the fact that she doesn't speak to me, I'm now like, just scan the items through and then say the total, and that's where I leave it, because I'm clearly not going to change that person's opinion on me based on that one little thing, which was actually out of my control. But I'm blamed for the jackets not being in because I was the person that they dealt with. I've got to live with that and just leave it be, because there's no point kicking up a fuss, like trying to, say, oh, it's not in my control, and what's the point?
Man, customer service is one of the worst jobs ever. I literally had a job in a bank, in a call centre, and that's what broke me. I quit. And I took like 6 months off just not to listen to anybody, and then I done my own kind of stuff. But it's so hard. Like, people don't understand customer service jobs are just, it's pretty much like being in the military, but like frontline, constant, because you'll get like days when you get good people in, but there is always those days. Out of 5 days, you probably get 2 or 3. You just get that one person that comes in and they'll just like you said, you've not got a jacket in stock, they're going to kill themselves. And you're like, what do I do? What am I meant to do with this? Like, I don't know what I'm meant to do. I'm going through something similar just now. Like, so at school, my little girl's getting bullied by this boy who's got autism, but because he's got autism, his parents are saying he doesn't understand what he's doing. And you kind of need to be like, at a certain point, well, you're making my little girl feel uncomfortable, but I'm going to the school telling them what they can do. Like, I could lose my nut in the playground because he's hitting my little girl, go off my head. But I was like, no, need to be an adult, calm and relaxed, go through the school will deal with it, and they're putting things in place to get it to work. That's the easier way of doing it. But then I was round there this morning, and there was like this mum who was screaming because the boy hit her little girl, and I was like, there's 2 different people. I'm just going through the easy way, and then you get this person poor shouting, just like in customer service or any kind of job. But I commend you for working in customer service, man. I couldn't do that. In my business, I try and avoid it. Like, customers are customers, you know what they're like. They're the most awkward people in the world to deal with. And then if you get somebody that's perfectly fine, like if I go to the shop, I'm always nice. I'm just interested in getting my shit and leaving. I don't want a conversation. You ask me how am I? I'm good. How are you? Fine. Give me my stuff. Pay. Leave. There we go. But then you get people that are in there like screaming, shouting. Like you said, I had when I was working in the bank, I was in a call centre. Somebody was like, I'm going to kill myself, and you'll see it in the paper. I'm going to blow myself up and stuff like that. And it was like, because they were like, I couldn't give them a loan of like £100, and I was like, I put them on hold. What am I meant to do with this? I really don't know what I'm meant to do here. And then there's like a policy you can't hang up if they say they're going to kill themselves. And I'm we're not saying anything. We're just sitting here talking about nothing. But you're a better person than me for working in customer service, because I can't handle it.
Well, one plus about the customer service business is it kind of has helped a little bit with some of my heel mannerisms, because you can pick up on the customers you don't like, or customers that annoy you, and think, oh, what was it about them that annoyed me? Oh yeah, the smile, for example. I need to use that. And then, or even the nice people, what made them come across so nice and so friendly? Oh, that would work as a baby face. So there's pros and cons to it.
Taking notes down, somebody's screaming at you. So what is it exactly you don't like about me? That cool, right? That's what I would be doing as well, man. You're using everything to your ability, which is one of the most important things to do in anything. But coming to the end of the podcast, man, we always try and end this with wrestling related stuff. These podcasts, we can just talk about life or whatever. Like I always say to anybody, they're not just wrestling. It's just about talking with scarred wrestling knowledge in there. But we'll finish it with some wrestling. What's one of your favourite matches that you've seen this year? Or even better, before we get to that question, what do you put on when you want to chill out? What wrestling show do you put on to chill out with? Is it like a classic stuff or that mid-2000 period? What's the moment you sit down, load up the network or something, you put on to just chill, watch and enjoy?
So I would normally probably put on like a Raw from like the year 2002 or something like that, just because that's kind of the era that I grew up with. But recently I've been trying to watch through just a lot of any random old shows really. So like the other week I had a Raw from 1993 on the way. I had Owen Hart in a match against Don for Clown, for example. So it's just really anything really. I try not to choose anything that's too long because I don't like to sit down for too long. I like to be out doing stuff. But I'd probably choose like a proper old episode of Raw. The new stuff I kind of like to watch and kind of like take in because obviously that's current and stuff like that. Where some of the old stuff you can always revisit, and you never know, you might find spots that you can involve in matches, or it's just nice sometimes just to watch something you've already seen and just sit and enjoy it again.
Definitely, man. Don't remind me about Raw 1993. I used to do a watch along for them, and it destroyed my soul watching some of those shows. Just how terrible. Like, people have a cheek to complain about Raw. I complain about Raw now, obviously being 3 hours, but those 45-minute Raws as well were just 45 minutes of shit sometimes. Like really, really, really bad. If nobody's seen them, go back and check them out and just.
Honestly, some of them are so bad.
I remember I got to a certain point. I can't remember what bit it was, and I was like, I can't even continue watching these. Like, this is unbelievably terrible.
I remember watching one, and it was like Undertaker was the first match on the show, and he got to the main event, and it was practically two jobbers against each other, and it was just like, wow, like how things have changed now.
I think it was the one that made me realise that I don't think I can continue this stream, and I done it for a couple of times after it, but it was like somebody like Mr. Perfect against Bobby Who or something like that, and I was like, no, like I can't do this. This is Doink the Clown is somebody that I've always hated. The guy's probably fine, but his character I don't like. I just can't watch him wrestle as a clown. I don't mind clowns. I just don't like his character, and he's everywhere in 1993, and it does my tits in. So I'm like, I just need to get rid of this. But it was a time in wrestling that we can all look back on and hate-ish, kind of. I don't know anybody who likes that 93 period in WWE because it is pretty bad.
Well, one plus from it was Owen Hart getting the king of the ring around 93, 94. That's one plus.
The pay-per-views, the King of the Ring pay-per-views at that point starting then, they're good-ish, kinda. But everything's just kinda. Like, it's all right. Just pick and choose what you want to watch from that period in wrestling. But, man, so what match from this year has really piqued your interest? Have you watched and you've been like, this is why I do wrestling, this is why I'm a fan of it? What match from this year?
So just before the podcast, actually, because obviously I was away yesterday, I was in Glasgow, so I didn't get to see it. I watched Crown Jewel, that Edge versus Rollins Hell in a Cell match. I really enjoyed. That's probably been my favourite match of this year. If not before that one, it was probably Edge v Rollins on SmackDown, where Rollins got the win. And the Edge off, I enjoyed that match as well. Favourite moment of this year is probably the Big E cash in now. It was just nice to see somebody that I feel like has deserved to be up there as a main eventer, and maybe hasn't until recently been viewed as like a main event guy, but he's always been, you know, to me, charismatic. He's like almost up there with the likes of The Rock in terms of his charisma and the energy he brings. So it's kind of nice to see somebody like that at the top of the card. Like somebody who's fun, but can also like has the power and the believability that he can take your head off. So it's pretty nice to see him.
I think the worst thing with Big E as well, he's just tarnished with that New Day brush. They really need to do something better to break up that kind of those three. Because even if they're in different brands, you still kind of they wear the same stuff in that. So we just kind of need to fix that. But I think that was a cool moment. I would say Edge and Seth Rollins for me as well. Is that Hell in a Cell was surprisingly. I forgot they had a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view this year as well. Even though I've reviewed it, I've seen that and I was like, this is really good. Wonder when Hell in a Cell comes up, and I was like, oh shit, I have. They fudged the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, but they made up for it with the red Hell in a Cell. While we're here talking about it, what's your opinion on that? Because I hate it. I think it looks horrible.
No, not a fan. I like the old school Undertaker and Kelly. Hell in a Cell is one I like. It's like steel cages. I prefer the old school blue steel cage to the one that they currently use. I think you could do a lot more and be a bit more creative with the old school blue one than what you can be with the current one.
I think there's like with Hell in a Cell, there was like the very first one that was like all like grungy looking, that was cool, and then they changed it. It was like a little bit bigger and it was like shiny silver, and then they changed it to obviously that red horrible one. But I prefer the very first one that's like disgustingly grungy way, because it makes it feel like we're in this horrible cell. But then, like you said, the blue steel cage is one of my favourite things ever, because there is more that you can do with it. Plus, it does seem like you hit that, it's going to hurt a lot more than what it does to hit the mesh. And finishing up the podcast, man, is where do you want people to go check you? Do you want to see people to go to your Twitter first? Do you want people to DM you so you can personally shout at them? Where do you want people to go check you out?
You can check us out. Check us out anyway. You can go on my Facebook. Personification of Greatness, Roy Storey. You can go on my Twitter as well. If you type in the same thing, you'll find me. Or it's at TPOGRS. You can find us on Instagram. I don't really post too much on there though. It's normally just wrestling related on my Instagram. Or you can even follow us on TikTok at TPGRS on there as well. Or if you just type in Roy Storey, it'll probably come up as well.
But I would recommend anybody to go check you out. If they can get out to a Target Wrestling show, definitely go support Target Wrestling. They're a great bunch of guys. Bunches have been on this podcast. And you're a supporter for me. I support you guys. I think your show is really good. I'm trying to get down to go to a show. The last one you've done was like the two nights. I was trying to get down, but then I had work the next day, so I wouldn't have made one because my work starts at like 3 a.m. So I was like, shit, I'll just need to leave it. I'm trying to get down for the November one, but hopefully I'll be down there and I can do like podcasts with the guys that are there as well. But go check, everybody who's listening to this, go check you out. You're a great up and coming wrestler. The heel gimmick is one of my favourite in wrestling at the minute. It's such a simple gimmick, and it's just you're just killing it. Especially seeing like on Twitter and stuff that you've been posting. I think it's fun, and you're going to be huge in the next 5 years by the time you're my age. Hopefully, you still keep your hair and you don't end up like me. But man, thanks for being on the show. Is there anything you want to finish off with? Any words of advice, of wisdom from a wrestler you want to give out?
Yeah, you just reminded me of something actually. So to any like wrestler who's up and coming on, to even anyone that's like kind of showing ready but unsure, best thing to do probably is first off, simplicity is key. Keep things simple until you're ready to be more advanced. That's currently what I'm doing, and it's it makes things a lot easier for you. In terms of character, what I would recommend is instead of trying to create something that's like quirky and like that's strange or something like that, make sure that you keep the character kind of relevant to you. So, for example, if you're a babyface, maybe ask your close friends what's 3 qualities about you that make them like you, and then for a heel, ask them 3 qualities about you that they don't like. Then you can basically build your character around them fundamentals and then just turn it up a little bit. So, for example, the reason why on the t-shirt I'm smiling and I smile quite a bit with my current character is because I personally don't like my smile. So if I don't like my smile, no one else is going to like my smile. At least that's kind of how I view it. Some people do probably like my smile, but the way I view it is if I don't like it, chances are other people will. I'll turn it up a bit now, so instead of just doing it, I'll go and hold it because people get really annoyed. So that's one little bit of advice I'll do. If you find anything that kind of annoys you, use it, but turn it right up because then it'll be even more annoying. And that's probably the best bit of advice in terms of character that I can give you. In terms of in-ring stuff, just keep practicing. Get your basics down, keep practicing, and it doesn't hurt to keep going over the basics. And then just constantly watch wrestling and pick things that you want to use. Try it, obviously, until you get it correct, and then that's probably the best thing to do. Try and be unique and different, but then at the same time, it doesn't hurt to use stuff that other people have used, because it's kind of like respectful to pay respect back to what you've seen, but also it's a good way for you to develop like your moveset and keep things fresh and different.
Man, I couldn't have said it better myself. Just on the point of asking people about your character, when you're asking about them something that they don't like, get them to give you 3 points, because when I done that, they just say it's because you're a cunt. But get them to advance on it more instead of you just like the one because you're annoying. That's not gonna help me. But I couldn't say it better. Everything you said there, obviously put it into play, keep it simple. That's what wrestling is. Simple, cause emotion, and just have fun. That's what I always tell everybody to do. So if you wait there, I'll end the podcast and I'll tell you the kind of aftercare information.